Hello, and today I'm going to do a tutorial on LRM boats. And for that LRM boat, I'm going to choose one of my best running mechs. This mech is the Hellfire C. And as you can see, I've given it a nice paint job. This is absolutely my hands down favorite LRM boat. I have a lot of favorites. The Nova Cat B, the Cobra Cat is also a nice mech as well. The Mad Dog is not bad either, but it's a little bit too squishy in my opinion. It's just a little bit too soft, but it does have a nice narrow torso. But for today's operation, I'm going to be showing you the Hellfire C. Now, let me take you down the road a bit. First of all, this guy is loaded with 4 ER medium lasers, which are out on the arms. And then it also has 4 LRM 15s. Let's take a look upstairs here. So as you can see, we have 2 lasers on this arm, 2 lasers on this arm. And then we have 4 LRMs that you can put on here, or ATMs, or SRMs. We'll just say missiles. This is my choice for this build. Let me show you this build specifically, and then we'll get into LRMs. So what I'm running on this guy is 2 LRM 15s on this torso and 2 LRM 15s on this torso. As far as ammo, I'm running 8 tons for this mech, and these are fully skilled out, so each ton is delivering 276 shots. So this works out fairly well to having lots and lots of ammo. Now when you're considering getting an LRM boat or building an LRM boat, I tend to follow the Bardol rule of thought, and he was right about this. If you're going to run an LRM 20, you need a minimum of 2 tons of ammo to efficiently run each LRM 20 during a match. So I'm running approximately 2 tons for each LRM 15 because I know that I run very heavy. So it actually works out to about 1.5 to 2 tons thereabout for each LRM 15. In addition, for safety and help, because there are other missile boats out there, I also have laser AMS, so I don't have to deal with carrying extra ammo for the AMS, which, you know, does weigh it down. And as you can see, I've maxed out all the feature on this. I've got this one's the fibrous, which gives you a lighter mech, and then the endo, which also gives a lighter mech, and the double heat sinks, which does take up a little bit more space. But for defensive, I went with 2 ER medium lasers on each arm. And when you're considering an LRM boat, you need to consider getting things downrange, but also what's going to happen when those objects downrange come to you. So one of the reasons I chose this particular mech is it has decent survivability as far as armor goes that are added to it. It has energy cooldown of -10% and ER laser heat generation of -5%. Otherwise, it really doesn't have any life altering features to it. But when I skilled it out, I wanted to make sure that this thing was fairly tanky. Now let me show you in the battlefield. So as usual, I'm going to go to Tourmaline Desert, and we're going to talk about LRMs. Now, when you're in the battlefield, when you're in the hangar, the warehouse, you can load your mech up with ATMs or LRMs or SRMs or streaks. Those are the primary weapons you can add to the clan variants. Now on innersphere mechs, you can also run MRMs, but they don't have ATMs. So I guess it's kind of a trade-off. So the first thing you note when you have an LRM boat is you're going to want to target up a target.
Target acquired.
And by simply putting the reticle on the object, if it's in range, it'll typically lock up. If you look over on the right hand side of the screen, and I'm just going to do this for a moment, you can see that these are all lit up, and that indicates that we're in target range, optimum target range. Also, the lasers are in optimum as well. So that means when I fire the weapons, the full damage that these are capable of doing is going to go in on that target, as you see on the reticle. This particular build, because it's fully skilled out, has a range of 1,035 meters. And I'm running with 2,208 missiles, which is adequate for a 60 LRM burst. If you were running ATMs, you would have a little bit further range. I think it's right around 1,100. Fully skilled, if I remember that correctly. Actually, I think it's actually closer to 1,200 now that I think about it. Anyway, I've never actually run ATMs on this particular mech, but I do run it on a lot of my other mechs. So, back to it. So one of the things when you're considering going with missiles on a boat of your choosing is this. Now, if you have people helping you get a target lock on somebody, if you have an LRM boat, that's not a big issue. So as an example, I'm going to come over here.
UAV activated.
And with that UAV, it's going to keep a target lock for me, even though it's out of range. And with an LRM,
Target acquired.
as you can see, it easily goes over the top of surfaces, and it'll go over its extreme angles as well. I'm probably going to lose lock here in a moment. See how effortlessly it goes over the top? That is what an LRM is going to do. Now, if you have a streak or an ATM build, it's not going to do that. What's going to end up happening... Go away. What's going to end up happening is it's going to end up shooting straight into the mountain, even if you have somebody giving you a target lock, more often than not. So now that that's gone, this is what would happen. Whoops. Your ATMs and your streaks and your SRMs are going to do the same thing. They're just going to go straight into the surface of the mountain. None of those would have hit the target with a target lock on it at this particular juncture. The reason is because those weapons, they do have a lot better range, at least on the ATMs. However, what they lack as far as additional feature is the ability to go over the tops of surfaces very well. But they have massive range, and they also do more damage per missile than LRMs do. But if you're running an LRM boat, you should be working with compatriots. And if you have yourself set up fully skilled with target lock and being able to hold the target longer, even after you pull away, it's still going to hold the lock. I wasn't even aiming at it. So one of the things I do when I'm in a match is I'll get a lock on somebody and oh, somebody's up to my right side. And I'm still able to get target. So I'm actually shooting at two targets simultaneously. You can do that for a brief amount of time, as you can see there. So One of the benefits that you need to learn when you're driving an LRM boat is your ranges. And after a while, it'll just become second nature. Now, here's the cool thing. See how it's in white right now in the LRM 15s? It won't go to yellow on LRMs. On ATMs, it will show you yellow if it's in the range, but not in the optimum range. Optimum range is going to be white. And I'm pretty sure that's accurate because I remember that from when I played with my ambush, which I made into an LRM boat. And I know there's people out there cringing. That's another thing to think about here. The drive time. This is 945 meters out. I'm not near out of range yet. I still have quite a bit of range. But look at the follow. So when you're targeting somebody and you want to shoot them, because you have a finite number of missiles that you can fire, remember that target's probably not going to stand there stagnant like this guy here is. So he may go into cover. So let me show you something else. Let me get out of lock. Eventually. Okay, there we go.
New target acquired.
So even at a target lock, you may need to do something like that if it's a moving target. So you can predict where they're going to be at, so we're going to pretend that this guy's going to move from where he's at, and he's going to move over here to his right, essentially, or left, depending on the direction he's facing. So now we're hitting a target that's out in the direction where he's going to go. This is the same thing you're going to learn when you do ballistic builds, or you've already probably learned doing a ballistic build, is aiming where they're going to be, not where they are.
New target acquired.
Now when you have a target lock on somebody, when they're moving around, you can usually hold the lock as long as you can keep this within this bubble of range. And I'm just going to toast this guy anyway. It's just too much fun. Anyway. Moving on. Oh, he's still alive. Moving on. Now this is an important thing to learn about LRMs. LRMs do not have much use at close range. That isn't to say that they don't do any damage. They do some damage, but it's very minimal. And let me show you. The other reticle's turning red. You're still doing damage, but the damage is so minor that it's probably not affecting him realistically whatsoever. It's slightly more than tag, but not by much. Now let me tell you one thing you can do using LRMs as a defensive weapon. If you're in point blank range, try to imagine what this is like, and I'll show you. So we're inside this mech now. Let me show you. See what's happening? And you're not doing hardly any damage, but what you are doing is you're creating so much light in their face that they can't get a good solid target lock on you. So in addition to doing this, shifting back and forth, like when you're getting targeted and hit and stuff, you're getting hit and then you move, you duck around to spread the damage. You can also do this And as you can see, we're not doing hardly any damage to him whatsoever, but this is going to help you. So maybe you've lost your arms, all you got left is your LRMs. Maybe you can do this until somebody comes to help you. I've actually, in my Shadowcat, I fired my LRM 15s and used that to get away. While they're distracted and disoriented from the blast, kind of like a flashbang, I was able to get away, and that does work out in your favor. So these are some things to consider as a defensive weapon. If you come up on a assault mech and you do this, it might work in your favor if you're splashing them in the face, like I'm doing here. He can't get a solid target lock on you, and if he's using heat vision, it's even worse. And I'll show you what I mean. Because now it's creating this white cloud in his vision. This isn't much better. It's a little bit better though.
Light amplification disabled.
So ultimately, there's a lot of things you can do with an LRM boat you can't do with other mechs. And one of those is you can also use it for skilling up through the tiers a lot smoother and faster. I typically drive the LRM boats because it's just my style. I'm not really all that concerned about going through the tiers. I used to be, but I just don't care anymore. I want to have fun, and I want to punish the other team. And this is the style of mech play that I go with. I typically go with defensive weapons, and I like having the range.